If you're not already subscribed to this YouTube channel, go ahead and hit the subscribe button now, along with the bell icon so you can be notified whenever a new video is posted. And if you're already subscribed, check and make sure that YouTube hasn't unsubscribed you. And of course, be sure to give the video a like as well as share it on your social media. The white supremacists hate that. And now, the Sunday address.
For Biden, absolutely. I actually went on Fox News at 9 a.m. for exclusive one-on-one interview in which I publicly suggested that he step aside for the first time. And I endorsed the vice president. And 2 hours later, the president's gone. So I'm like, for me, it's, wow, my timing could not have been more exquisite. And I had members of Vice President Harris's team thanking me because the headline out of the interview was, skipping over Kamala Harris would be a catastrophic mistake. I was in no uncertain terms. I made it clear that there's no way we're skipping over her. There's no way we would commit that political malpractice. You know, she was the only one who could have inherited the $240 million war chest. And I really don't think there's any universe in which our base, Black Americans, would have allowed party chieftains to just override her. You know, our base is why we defeated Trump. We owe them the respect of listening to them.
And so the political whitewashing, or should I say blackwashing, of Kamala Harris continues apace. Now let's go ahead and deal with the obvious part. This woman here says that black voters are owed. But as we all know, Kamala Harris has gone on the record saying she's not going to do anything that benefits black voters. So when this woman says black voters are owed, what does that actually mean? She says we are owed Kamala Harris as a candidate. That's what she says. Black voters are owed this. This is what black voters have demanded. Never mind that black voters refused to support Kamala Harris 4 years ago when she ran her own failed presidential campaign. What we are owed, what we have been demanding, and what we have not been heard on is tangibles. To make Kamala Harris the presidential candidate only benefits the anti-black racists. All she said was black American voters are owed the respect of being listened to. So she doesn't say that we're owed something. She says that Democrats owe it to us to merely listen to us. We know that they hear us. They've spent decades ignoring us. When we pressed them on reparations, they said no. Bernie Sanders said it wasn't feasible. Elizabeth Warren said owed for what? And Kamala Harris said she wasn't going to do anything that only benefited black people. So Democrats have heard us, and they've ignored us. All of this touchy-feely talk that this woman's trying to do, who the hell is that supposed to appeal to? This woman already knows what we want. The problem is they're not doing what we've told them to do. We're not looking for a shoulder to cry on or for someone to talk to. We're demanding that our interests be catered to and fulfilled through political policies specifically to benefit us. It means absolutely nothing for this Lee woman to say black American voters are owed respect without actually saying what it is that we want. So this is a talking point that's meant for black people to see it and think, gee, are these people who have ignored us for decades actually thinking about us now? It's all propaganda. It's all trying to manipulate us through repeating lies over and over. The first is the thumbnail that they use for this particular video. It falsely claims black voters heard. Now, that's the white media trying to con you. They claim black voters heard. What black voters were saying to run Kamala Harris for president? Nobody. Black voters are demanding policies for us, not for some self-interested California politician to get a leg up in the political game. This is the Democrats giving a gift to themselves and then falsely claiming they did it for us. That it was all our idea. Why, this is what you people wanted. You people demanded. That's what you people wanted. This is part of the scheme, too. If Kamala fails, then they'll be claiming that black voters failed the civil rights generation or something. As far as I'm concerned, they can go ahead and blame us all day long. I'll take credit for this. Yes, if and when Kamala Harris's second bid for the presidency crashes and burns, yeah, you're doggone right. You point to us folks online. Black voters being heard? No, we are barking out the orders. It ain't about whether or not you hear us. It's about whether or not you obey us. This woman says that black Americans wouldn't have allowed party chieftains to override Kamala Harris. Well, black voters refused to support her when she ran 4 years ago. This is the reason that I posted that video a couple of days ago talking about Van Jones and his phony baloney claim that apparently there are these throngs of black people, or in his case, he was talking about black men, who apparently are saying protect this sister when talking about Kamala Harris. That's nothing more than a DNC talking point. That came from the Democratic Party. And it's a talking point that they've been told to spread. That's why they're all out here showing that everybody's got the memo. This is merely paying lip service, and weak lip service at that, to black voters. Trying to do the sister girl routine for a woman who, now that she's officially on the campaign trail, she ain't talking that sister girl stuff. Oh, you got Van Jones and others doing that mess. Yeah, that's what they're told to do. Well, we need you to get out there and say the sister girl thing. Kamala Harris, especially talking to these white voters, she can't do that, don't you see? Now notice this Lee woman said that black American voters are the party base. One thing that I noticed is she didn't say black women. She said black American voters. Now Democrats have been banging the hell out of that drum of black women voters for several years now, but they see that their attempts to drive that gender wedge hasn't worked. So now, at least a number of them are finding themselves being forced to have to dial it back a little bit. Not all of them, but it's showing that there are more and more of them who are understanding and accepting the fact that that old gender wedge divide that they've been trying isn't really working, not the way they need it to. What we're witnessing here is a full-blown PR blitz to convince black people that we like Kamala Harris. Well, we don't. But as the white media, they think they can dictate our opinions to us. This is where the constant carpet bombing of propaganda on us is meant to come in. This is a matter of just saying over and over again, hopefully those mushy-headed Negroes will look and go, you know what? She is a sister after all. That's what the whole goal is. We're going to stand up for this sister. And who exactly is it who's supposed to be this alleged base black support for Kamala Harris? Who is in the black community who's supposed to form this support base? Why, it's the NAACP.
Well, Erica, on Sunday, President Joe Biden, as we know, announced he was dropping out of the presidential race. And that same night, an estimated 90,000 black women from all across the country logged onto their computers to support a new campaign. So on that Zoom call was Portia Prescott, president of the Rocky Mountain NAACP.
If we don't invest in our women of color, then why else would anybody else invest?
Prescott and Harris are both members of the same sorority. Which is also garnering support from people all across the country.
So Kamala Harris opposes reparations, the NAACP opposes reparations, and what a surprise, her sorority sisters that she went to school with, they also oppose reparations. The ties between these bootlicks and these suck-ups and these operatives are absolutely incestuous. There's not even 1 degree of separation between these sellouts. And since I know that a number of these Boule wannabe sorority suck-ups happen to infest my pages, let me ask you people a question. If you don't oppose reparations, then why the hell is it that you're doing everything you can to put a woman into the Oval Office who has publicly gone on record before the world in saying that she opposes reparations? The fact that you support Kamala Harris, that shows you oppose reparations because you haven't gotten a promise from her saying that she's going to support it now. Has her stance on the issue changed? Of course not. She hasn't changed at all. So even if these sorority suck-ups want to try to claim, well, we're not opposed to reparations, well, Kamala Harris is. And since she hasn't changed her position on the issue, that means obviously you did, because you're supporting her. And this is who's supporting Kamala Harris. And this is why we don't fool with these civil rights fossils, these dinosaurs from a bygone era. They sold out, and they're trying to pretend to speak for all of us. When you look at the individuals who you see doing this fundraising for Kamala, it's the same handful of Democratic Boule wannabe black elite tools, bootlicks, and professional butt kissers who want to reenact the days of slavery. That's their goal. Back to the plantation. This is the danger in allowing social climbers to be presented as speaking for you and me. Understand something, the current narrative that we're seeing about Kamala Harris, that she's apparently just running the boards and she's dominating the polls and oh my God, there's new energy in the Democratic Party and this woman's turning through, oh, this is a game changer, this is a game changer. This is the same cock and bull story that we saw when Hillary Clinton ran back in 2018. And by the way, at that time, they were talking about Hillary Clinton as if she had all of this black support. I think we know how that one turned out. This is the exact same playbook from 8 years ago, except this time they have an Asian candidate who's running. And the only actual change in rhetoric is whereas in 2016, the talking point was that it's time for a woman to be president. This time around, they're trying to rerun the Obama playbook. They know the reason they lost the presidency in 2016 was because black voters stayed home. So the goal now is to give some empty rhetorical pandering to us and claim that black people can't wait to vote for Kamala Harris, and especially black women in specific. And make sure to put some NAACP shill or some woman who's the head of one of these white-funded sock puppet dark money organizations like Black Pack or something, or some other group funded by white dark money, and let these front women stand in front of the cameras acting like they're leading black voters when in reality they're being led by white Democrat donors. Their goal is to put out propaganda masquerading as news, where they avoid and evade black people and make sure the only persons who are on screen are the same Democrat Party-aligned shills who depend on the DNC and white dark money donors for every crumb of their daily bread. When you read the white media articles, they never talk to us, the grassroots. They always talk to politically reliable shills, individuals who they already know are hip deep in the Democrats' pocket and who will never say the wrong thing. And what's the wrong thing? Anything that has to do with black empowerment. Pay attention to these people you see the white media putting on your screens, or who you see them talking to on these newspaper articles. You'll see they're not some random person off the street. It's always some Democrat-aligned individual. That's the game. Try to get black people excited about voting for nothing. So they're going to keep the hype train on full steam ahead, and they'll claim that Kamala's dominating in the polls, dominating in this or that poll, just like they did with Hillary. All this is propaganda meant to manufacture a phony public impression that Kamala Harris is unstoppable. Trump is afraid of her. Trump voters are scared she can win. Black voters have never been this mobilized ever. So all of these black folks you see online talking about things like reparations, intangibles, and punish the police, and making sure that there's an anti-black hate crime law, don't pay attention to that. That doesn't matter. What matters is the excitement, the enthusiasm, because we got these bought and paid for shills over here. These Boule bootlicks who are on the payroll, and they're saying that black community has never been more excited or energized about a candidate ever, and oh, Kamala Harris, she's getting all of this money, which by the way is the same money that they raise every 4 years. There's nothing to see here, but they're going to talk about it as if this is unprecedented. As they see it, they're going to give themselves permission to ignore the black vote, to ignore us. That's what this is really about. And instead, they're going to claim that all those people you see online saying Kamala's offered us nothing, they don't matter anymore. Why? Because you got these NAACP suck-ups who are saying there's so much support for her. They're trying hard to position her as a candidate who they hope can appeal to white women, especially in the suburbs. That's why she talks about abortion so much.
One of the issues that came up at the last debate and will definitely feature in September would be the issue of reproductive rights, and having her as the candidate could significantly change that ground, that conversation.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, it's kind of taken a backseat to all the drama in recent weeks, but I can't even imagine a world where we don't have full control over. I just can't even imagine. I can't believe this happened. And she has been out there every single day being a champion for reproductive rights. If we can't control our bodies, nothing else matters.
Kamala's not out there doing that sister girl routine. That's why Van Jones looked doubly stupid talking that protect this sister stuff, because Kamala's not out there on the campaign trail doing that at all. But of course, that kind of rhetoric was only done as a clumsy attempt to pander to black women and to condescend to black men. That if you criticize Kamala Harris, then you aren't protecting black women. As I detailed for you in my prior video, Kamala Harris is the one who hasn't done a thing to protect black women or black people in general. Imagine the absurdity of black people getting excited to vote for a career prosecutor who made her bones threatening to lock up homeless black mothers because their kids missed school. And she laughed when she talked about that.
So I decided I was going to start prosecuting parents for truancy. Well, this was a little controversial in San Francisco. And frankly, my staff went bananas. They were very concerned because we didn't know at the time whether I was going to have an opponent in my re-election race. But I said, look, I'm done. This is a serious issue, and I've got a little political capital, and I'm going to spend some of it.
And by the way, if that phrase spending some political capital sounds familiar to you, it should, because that's the phrase that W used to justify ignoring the American people and just instituting policies that he wanted to institute.
You asked, do I feel free? Let me put it to you this way. I earned capital in the campaign, political capital, and now I intend to spend it.
I've got some political capital, and now I'm going to spend it. That's who Kamala Harris takes her cues from. That's who this career prosecutor was quoting. W.
And I've got a little political capital, and I'm going to spend some of it. And this is what we did. I sent a letter out on my letterhead to every parent in the school district. A friend of mine actually called me and he said, Kamala, my wife got the letter. She freaked out. She brought all the kids into the living room, held up the letter, said, if you don't go to school, Kamala's going to put you and me in jail. Yes, we achieved intended effect.
When she talked about locking black people up, she cackled like the witch she is. And you don't see any of these NAACP shills or any of the rest of these bootlicks who are saying anything about, hey, we got to find out if Kamala Harris has changed her tune. Because we haven't seen her saying anything different than what she said in the past. Instead, she's just lied and decided she's going to try to cover it up and say that, I want you to know that I've been open-minded a long time and the community came to me and my record is clear and good. No, it ain't. She runs away from her record. But then again, I would too if I had a record like that. When Matrice Richardson was murdered, I'd like to know where Kamala Harris was then. Oh, we know exactly where she was. She was falsely claiming that I'm going to investigate the killing of Matrice Richardson, and then she dumped the case. That is, until she was ready to run for the U.S. Senate. Then she made a big splash out of announcing she was reopening the Matrice Richardson murder, but no sooner than she was declared the winner of the Senate race, she quietly announced that for the second time in a row she was closing the case and that the police had nothing to do with it, etc. Kamala Harris cynically used the murder of Matrice Richardson as nothing more than a PR tool to promote herself. This is who the white media is trying to dictate to you and me that we ought to get excited for. This is who these NAACP shills and all the rest of these bootlicks and operatives are telling you and me represents our best interest. This woman has said nothing about punishing the police, nothing about punishing prosecutors, nothing about punishing judges, all of whom are complicit in the systemic racism we experience in the injustice system. The goal is to have as many black people, or at least people with the requisite amount of melanin, get in front of the cameras and talk about her as if she's the second coming, and just to see how many black folks fall for it. They're throwing stuff against the wall to see if anything sticks. How long until she makes some super cringe video of herself dancing to Sexy Red or something, huh? It's only a matter of time. But then again, the white media is counting on the fact that most people, including black folks, are sheep. They see a parade, they see the white media making a big deal out of someone, they think that there must be something to it, they'll pay attention to it, some of them might even act on it. Most people are sheep, and you can fool most of them, but only some of the time. That's the dilemma the white media's in. They got away with it 4 years ago. Can they do it twice? Well, that answer depends on how foolish the people choose to be. Good evening, and be one. I'd like to take a moment to mention some of our contributors. Andrea Rosario Gabori, Kenneth Prescia, Terrence Gaines, Otis Pimpleton, and Fred Williams. Salute to them and thank you to everyone for listening, liking, and sharing this message. Black empowerment only exists because of you.